Welcome to Gravity Falls. It had everything. Hidden messages, cryptograms, weird creatures, and it was all wrapped in this quirky, eerie style that made it feel like a kid's version of X-Files. But what you just saw, that intro, wasn't from the show at all. In fact, none of it was even real. Every scene, every character, every creepy forest was generated using AI.
This is how I recreated the Gravity Falls intro from scratch using AI Image Generation, Adobe After Effects animation, and a few long hours of Premiere Pro. Firstly, I had to create and kind of recast the Gravity Falls characters to the style that I wanted and what I wanted them to look like. And so initially I started using ChatGPT's image generation, and I gave them really specific prompts, personalities, and outfits, and that ended up not working out at all. So what I utilized was ChatGPT's image recognition and replication, and so I fed ChatGPT a bunch of images of myself and then images of the actual characters in Gravity Falls, and it gave me some really good outputs that I can show you here.
Alright, so I already threw it into the prompt and the image generator, but here's ChatGPT, and here's an image of myself. You can put in as many as you'd like, but just keep in mind that you can only throw in 10 images at a time. That's just the limit that Chat has. And so what I did was I went over to Google, searched up Gravity Fall characters, and you can see there's a ton of different characters. Copy and pasted them, threw them back into the prompt. I just had one image of myself and then 9 other images of the characters. And so what I had prompted to Chat was replicate this image for me. I want you to apply the same features of the characters uploaded in the man in the suit, apply a Gravity Falls style to the image. So this really cuts down on the prompting that I showed before, and it spit out a really good image of me that looks pretty similar to me. The only problem is just from an animation standpoint, this is not a transparent background. And so another simple trick you could do is ask ChatGPT to duplicate the image, remove the background to make it transparent. This is another prompt you can use, and it makes it transparent. So sometimes Chat gets confused and changes the actual character's characteristics, and for me it looks good enough. If you don't want the character to change, then you can ask for a more specific prompt. But for this situation, or in this case, this image looks fine. And then from another standpoint of animation, you want to have a full body so you can animate all the limbs for animation. I just prompted the image generator to generate a full body image of the character, reference the images provided before to create the body, and it did pretty well. If you want different angles of the actual character, you can ask for the back of the character, the side of the character, and then you can create it into a 3D object and throw it into Blender or utilize Maximo to create 3D animations with this character. But in this case, this is a 2D animation, so this works perfectly. Hopefully you can hear me better. I don't know why my audio went out. All right, now moving on to the text generation of the Gravity Falls intro. So there's some very specific formatting when it comes to the text. As you can see, Mabel is spelled out obviously as Mabel, but with a very grungy graphic kind of text. And it's really hard to recreate that. If you were to throw them to Illustrator or into Photoshop, it's very, very difficult to create that style directly. And so a trick that I had learned is you can replicate it in ChatGPT. And so my name is Aiden, and I wanted a little introduction of myself as Aiden with this text style. And so I prompted Chat with replace this text with the same style. I wanted to say Aiden instead of Mabel, and it spit out a really good output. As you can see, it still has that grungy text. It looks great, but again, it gave me that non-transparent background. It threw some random background on that, and that's no problem because we can ask it to remove that background. And so now that is a transparent background that I can throw easily into Premiere or After Effects, whatever software I'm working with, and it looks great. In the original video that I had done, I had a few friends that I had replicated in the Gravity Falls style, and so I just took the text generation of Aiden and prompted Chat to say replace the text in this image to Luke. I want the text to be horizontal instead of vertical. Replace the style exactly. Chat gave me a really good output of Luke. It lost some of the style, but that is okay. It was still good enough for me. But again, if you are not okay with that, you can give a more specific prompt to Chat and it will fix it for you.
All right, finally moving on to the last part of generation of images, texts, and characters. Background generation. This is really important because it sells kind of the image of what you're trying to portray, and chat does this really well. And so one of the scenes in Gravity Falls is this giant lumberjack standing, and there's a really cool perceptual visual of this lumberjack. And so I said, take this photo and replicate it exactly, or very, very unspecific, just kind of giving it, just replicate it. And it gave me this, which is not good at all. There's obviously two lumberjacks. We don't want that. It kind of lost some quality. And so my next prompt was, remove the character from the bottom of the frame. And that's all really needed to spit out this really good image of Gravity Falls style lumberjack for this scene. Yeah, this was a super easy problem to fix, and it kind of just shows how easy it is to utilize prompts to change the image you want. Another example of a background utilizing prompts is, here's this Gravity Falls water tower, and I did not want to say Gravity Falls, so I said take this photo and replicate it exactly, replace the text on the water tower to Chicago, as that's where I'm from. And it did it really well. It did a great job of this, and I actually use this in the final video for the Gravity Falls intro, which I'll show you later in the animation. Another thing I wanted to test is how ChatGPT picks up gibberish text on kind of this paper with a finger hovering over the majority of the text, and I did a really good job. So the prompt I gave it was recreate this image and remove the hand. It's not exact, but it does have the little Illuminati sign, and the gibberish looks really good. But yeah, this turned out really good, and it gets me excited about the animation stage of this process. All right, we are now in the animation stage of the Gravity Falls intro. There's a bunch of different scenes in the initial Gravity Falls intro where there's a lot of character movements, a lot of different scenes. And I picked this one specifically because of how simple it is and how easy it is to recreate. As you can see, the character is walking through a house, it looks like, with a wood background with some bottles in front of him. And it's just kind of eerie. And so we're going to recreate that scene. Obviously, it's not going to be exact because there is some limitations to AI image generation, but we can have some fun with it and apply our own creativity and imagination to make it kind of our own. So I'm going to be doing this entirely in After Effects. If you're not familiar with the interface of After Effects, I recommend you go watch a tutorial video just to get familiar with the actual interface itself. It seems intimidating at first, but once you get it, you really do get it. On the left here, we have my graphics, 4 simple graphics, a wood background, a spider, some bottles, and my character that I generated. And then under that, I have comps. We just have one comp right now. We'll be adding more later. But again, very simple, 4 graphics and 1 comp just to start. Let's start out with building the actual scene itself. So we're going to start with dragging in the wood background. Let's scale that up to make it fit better in our composition. And this is just layering. So next we're going to add the bottles. And as you can see, I did this on purpose where the image generation spit out a really good generation of bottles, poster, and a lamp. But I forgot to remove the white background, but there's a really simple fix that we can do with this. We'll just go into effects and presets, type in color key, drag obsolete color key onto that PNG. Let's select the color that we want, which is white, and then we're going to just drag to remove that background. And as you can see, there's still some grain around that. We can just utilize the edge thin tool to get rid of all of the white in the scene. All right, let's scale that up now to make it fit and slide it over to the left to make it a little smaller. So there's 2 lamps in this scene. And again, this is another easy fix. This is just to show how easy it is to edit the actual images itself in After Effects. So what we're going to be doing here is getting rid of this lamp, and all we need to do is create a mask for that lamp. So we'll right click on bottles, mask, new mask, and you can see it created the square mask around the image itself. We're going to double click on one of the boxes in the 4 corners. That lets us edit the mask itself, and we're going to drag that all the way up to the lamp. Make sure it is fully around the lamp. That looks good. Now, we lost our bottles and we lost our poster. We're only seeing the lamp now. That's a super easy fix. We just need to go into masks under the bottles and click inverted. That deletes the lamp, the extra lamp, and leaves us with just the bottles and the poster. All right, so this scene is looking pretty good. Obviously, it's not the exact same as the actual Gravity Falls intro itself, but it is pretty close. And now we can kind of have some fun with it. So this next step, I'm going to create a separate composition for the character, and I'm going to add some eye movement to his face. So let's click on comps, click on composition, new composition. Let's name this Aiden comp. All the settings look fine. Click OK. All right, now that we have this new composition, we're going to drag my character in there. All right, there he is. And so what I want to do with this composition is animate the eyes, both of them to look left, right, and then to the center again. There's a really easy way you can do this. So firstly, we're going to go up to the rectangle tool, pull it down, and select Ellipse tool and draw an ellipse around the character's eyes. We only need one for now because we're going to change the color and duplicate and shift over to the left eye. So to change the color, go over to your fill color and select the color of the eye. That looks pretty good. It looks like there's no eye there now. And what we're going to do is just go down to this shape layer, copy, paste, and shift that other one over. Let's label these so we are organized. All right, now everything looks good. So it looks a little freaky right now, but now we just need to add the eyes back and animate them. So to do this, we're going to go back to the Ellipse tool. We're going to draw eyes that are relatively the same size as they were before. We're going to copy that and paste it and drag it over to the left eye. All right, that looks pretty good so far. It looks like nothing has changed. Now we have these two editable shapes that we can move to act as eyes. Let's rename these to stay organized. All right, now with these renamed, we're going to select both of them and click P on our keyboard, drag our timeline to 0, and click position keyframe. That creates a keyframe. Let's zoom in a little bit closer, move to the 1 second mark, shift the eyes right, not too far, move to the 2 second mark, shift the eyes left, again, not going too far, and then let's go to the 3 second mark and shift the eyes back to the center. Super simple. All right, let's highlight all these keyframes and go into our keyframe editor. We'll easy ease all of these keyframes, and then we're going to just drag to add some speed. That looks pretty good. Now let's add some motion blur to both of the left eye movements. Let's rewatch it again. Gives it a little bit more life, a little bit more movement. Now that we have the character done, we can add him to the actual composition. All right, now that we're back in our main comp, we can add the Aiden comp or the character comp in between the bottles and the wooden background. We'll scale them down just a little bit and we'll shift them over behind the bottles. As you have the character comp selected, click R on your keyboard to rotate. And the goal of this is we want his head to pop out from behind the bottles, and we can animate this very, very easily. The character comp still selected, click P on your keyboard and make sure your timeline is at 0. Click the position keyframe and let's go about 1 second in the timeline, drag them up behind the bottles. Let's see how that looks. That looks great. So again, we're going to go back into the graph editor. We're going to easy ease this just to add some smooth movements. We'll drag the right keyframe as far as I can go, and then we're going to add motion blur to the character. Let's see how this looks now. That looks great. Now that we have this done, we're going to add some very small details with the spider. So taking the spider graphic, we're going to place it behind the bottles. We're going to scale it down pretty small, and then we're going to click R on our keyboard while the spider graphic is selected and rotate it about 90 degrees. Now we're going to place the spider behind the poster. And with the spider placed behind the poster, let's go back to 0 on our time frame. Click P while the spider graphic is selected. Click the position keyframe. Let's zoom in a little bit, and we're going to go just before the second on the timeline and shift it over from under the poster to the right side of the composition. Let's see how this looks. So it's super slow, but again, let's go back into our graph editor. Let's add easy ease to the spider, drag the right keyframe as far as it will go, add some motion blur, and it should look better now. That looks great. Now all we're going to do is duplicate the spider 2 more times. With the new spiders, we're going to click P on our keyboard. Let's select these 2.
and then we're just going to move each one individually. And that looks pretty cool. Now let's drag each one of these so they have some delay to each of them. And that looks great. Again, it's the little details that kind of sell the entire scene. So let's watch the finished product. All right, great. Now something in the Gravity Falls intro is they have a lot of zoom outs and zoom ins, and we can easily do this by creating another composition. So let's go to our comps, click on composition, new composition, and we'll name this zoom comp. We're going to drag our main comp into the zoom comp. Now everything is in one composition, nothing will move. So what we'll do, we'll have our timeline at 0. We're going to zoom in, then we'll click S on our keyboard while the main comp is selected. Hit the scale keyframe. Let's zoom in. And I want this zoom out to last about half a second. Once you're on the half a second mark, put your scale back to 100. Add some motion blur, and then go into the graph editor and easy ease these keyframes like this. That looks great. All right, let's watch our finished product. It's those subtle movements that sell the scene, and the character movements. It really helps bring the scene to life.
I really appreciate you sticking to the end. I hope you learned something new today. Drop a like if you like what you saw today, and comment down below more ideas that we can create with AI.